Hello, Jared Higdon here. Was cruising through YouTube the other day and saw about 1,000,000 videos entitled "Why I Left the Mormon Church." So I thought I would do my own little video today on why I left the Exmormon Church. And my God, it is becoming a church. I am Jared. I'm a father. I'm a poet. I'm a sinner. I'm a lover. And I'm an Mormon. And I'm also going to start commissioning a bunch of very high budget videos with all of the high profile XX Mormons. It's going to be great. Doesn't mean we're coming back to church. It just means we don't like this new church either. Anyway, I decided to revive my channel. I've been on a couple videos, one with Chris Hanna and Jonathan Streeter, where we've been reading the James Lindsay, Helen Pluckrose book, Social Injustice. And it's a great book. Talks about postmodernism, applied postmodernism, all these different cynical theories, as they call them, things like critical race theory, post-colonial theory, queer theory, and sort of how they use postmodernism as a springboard into their own insane ideologies. Anyway, per the title of this video, The Death of the Nonprofit, obviously it's a little tongue-in-cheek. Obviously, I'm referring specifically to John Dehlin. And I do have to put a disclaimer on it, right? Okay, just for you, John Dehlin, if you ever happen to see this. The death is metaphorical. I feel like that's obvious, but in light of events, which I will cover in this video, I'm going to have to put that disclaimer out there. So, John, please, if you see this, this is not a threat. Please do not pretend to call the cops on me. We'll get to that. Anyway, the reason I bring this up in the ex-Mormon community is because I've discovered lately that the ex-Mormon community is pretty much the perfect microcosm for what woke ideology and namely identity politics does to a community. I think the ex-Mormon community might be the perfect small community to illustrate that very well. We're going to start with John Dehlin. Sorry, John. Used to like your podcast a lot. I listened to it religiously for quite a while, especially when I first left Mormonism. Now, I did stop listening to it about 5 years ago, and I'm going to go into detail on that with this video right over here. Now, there's been a bunch of things over the years that have sort of turned me off to the ex-Mormon community. I used to read everything on the ex-Mormon subreddit, everything. I do remember one of the first instances was when they wanted to have a banner of all of the people on the ex-Mormon subreddit. And I remember specifically they're asking for photos. And they said, okay, we've had enough white guys. We need some diversity. Not a fan of the forced diversity. It looks cheesy. It makes those people that you spotlight feel like they're tokenized. Anyway, this specific episode, they're talking about rape culture, and they have a panel of several ex-Mormon women and John Dehlin, of course, because he's not exactly very good at handing over the mic, so to speak, which is one of those woke terms you hear a lot since he's a straight white male, an oppressor. He ought to be handing over the mic to those less privileged than him, but he's not going to do that. Now, I don't think he should do that because it's stupid. But as somebody who claims to espouse this idea, I imagine maybe it's a little hypocritical for him not to do that. But he does try to pander in several different ways. And this was one of the first times I noticed it. Now, these women are talking about rape culture. And anytime you talk about rape culture, things get pretty stupid. John had, at the beginning of this, sort of explained a scenario where a man and a woman go get drunk, go back to her place, and then have sex, and the man is accused of rape, and he's asking them basically, what do we do with that? And this is her wonderful explanation for it.
Your story doesn't matter because you were drinking. If someone wakes up the next morning and has hazy memories and says, that's not something that I would have done, I feel like I've been raped, I would have said no, then quite frankly, that's how it is. If she feels like she was raped, she was raped. And I know a lot of guys are probably screaming at the podcast right now. Thankfully, none of you are screaming in the audience, but like, well, that's not fair. How am I supposed to read minds? You're not supposed to read minds.
That's the point.
And the thing is, if you too are also in a state of inebriation and maybe you're not thinking well, maybe if that situation happens, and I want to be clear, this is not the most common rape situation, that two people are drunk and then somebody, I hate the term, regrets it later, but I hear that all the time. If maybe you were altered as well, perhaps you owe that person a gigantic apology.
A gigantic apology. Now, this is why things like rape culture get pretty heated, because people, when they're talking about rape culture, they say just unbelievably stupid things. And that was an unbelievably stupid thing she said. And that was the moment I got to that part and realized, oh, I think Mormon stories is just ruined. I think it's always going to be like absurdly progressive and absurdly woke. And if he wants to do that, fine. This is just not my thing. When I watch things like that, I realize that I'm way more feminist than any of them. Any of the women on that panel. Well, I don't know. The woman that spoke, I'm more feminist than her. And that's because I view women as humans who are able to make their own choices, you know? It blows my mind that somebody who calls herself a feminist can play out that scenario like that and say that person one gets drunk, person two gets drunk, person one and person two have sex, person one now owes person two a gigantic apology, at least. Now, if you really want to view men and women as equals, you got to view them as equals. And it, like that, the fact that she didn't see the hypocrisy in that, they usual mention something about power imbalances or whatever, something to sort of obscure the point. She didn't even do that. So I think she's actually specifically not very good at talking about this stuff. So that was a good choice. She was good job going with her there, Lindsay Hansen Park. That was Lindsay Hansen Park who put together that charming panel. So that was where I stopped really paying attention to Mormon stories. And I stopped paying attention to the ex-Mormon community in general for quite a while. And that is until Kwaku happened. Now, a lot of people know Kwaku, a lot of people in that community. A lot of people don't like him. You know, he's pretty abrasive. He had him and Cardinellis and Brad Whitbeck did their "This Is the Show," which was their takedown of the CES letter. Now I have my beefs with "This Is the Show," and I had a lot of criticisms of it when it came out. I don't really remember them now because it's been a while. I did do a live stream on my wife's channel and just absolutely slam it. That was pretty harsh, but I think they can take it. Now, what I do appreciate, though, is their style. I don't know. I call them unapologists. I know Kwaku doesn't like the term apologist because I think if you're going to embrace a faith, you should be pretty unapologetic about it. Kwaku got me paying attention again. We had a good time slamming their videos. They had a good time slamming ex-Mormons, you know, all in good fun and, you know, ideological struggle between the two. Until somebody created a meme. Well, Kwaku did a video on it, and I'll let him explain the meme. This was I call it the meme, heard around the ex-Mormon community, and I was not impressed by the ex-Mormon community's reaction to it, especially John Dehlin's. It all felt incredibly insincere. I'll let Kwaku explain it in his video.
From Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards. In reaction to it, John Dehlin expressed he was fearing for his safety. The meme was of a German soldier being beaten with a baseball bat by Eli Roth. This could potentially be viewed as a death threat. However, one has to ask how we can infer the German soldier is representing John Dehlin. It's because the name is keyframed over the soldier. So that would mean we can infer that Eli Roth is Stone 16, and the bat is TITS, the acronym for This Is the Show. If we can assume the soldier is Dehlin, then we can assume the bat is the show. In which case, the message of the meme is that Dehlin is being taken down by the videos, and not that we're a squad of Danites coming after him and his family. He told his followers he was afraid for his life, online and in video.
Reactions that have been perceived as violent. And in my particular case,
I've recently had people posting some very violent videos on Twitter and elsewhere, and some very, very dangerous. Forgive me, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, and so I'm a little bit jumbled and rambly this morning. But
He called the police on me.
Now I gotta stop it right there because I saw this happen in real time. There's in this video, Kwaku reveals a lot of details that I didn't know at the time, but I saw this happen in real time, and this was the first time I ever saw. I always had sort of defended John Dehlin even after he went pretty woke. I was like, you know what, I don't like the whole woke thing, but I think he's a good guy. He was always a pretty objective interviewer for the most part. He ruins that later. Don't worry. And he brought a lot of really cool stories to me. So I appreciate a lot of the work that he's done, but watching this, I thought, no, man, you're so full of shit right now. I did not for a second believe that he was actually worried. He was actually afraid for his life, as he's saying here. This is all for online clout, pretty much. If you are threatened, if you receive death threats for what you do, that only makes your message stronger. Now, if you perceive obvious jokes as death threats, then that makes you look like this. Kwaku brings to light some other things that make me even further believe, but I pretty much was immediately, and I caught some flack from this for this in other ex-Mormon circles, but I was pretty much immediately doubting John Dehlin, and I'll let Kwaku sort of explain what makes it even worse.
Me, Cardin Ellis, and Braden. But what if I were to tell you that he wasn't afraid, and he was lying to his audience by giving them one reaction, but in private showing another? Well, we have evidence. As you can see, Saturday, December 5th at 12:15 a.m., he writes, Kwaku L and Cardin Ellis of Fair Mormon just tweeted this. Warning, super violent. A friend advised me to call the police. Your suggestions? For the record, Kwaku is funded by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints via the More Good Foundation and Fair Mormon. Your suggestions? However, that same day, only a couple hours later, at 6:58 a.m., he messages Cardin Ellis. Says, Cardin, I'd have to run it by my wife, Margie, but I'd be willing to come on your show. Let me know if you're willing and what the details would be to make that happen. The topic I'm most interested in discussing is a sentiment you expressed in part 1 of Kwaku's anti-Mormon video, that your primary goal/motivation is for folks to get along. Let me know. I respect your talent. Kwaku and Brad, too.
I love this. The fact that he really didn't think they were going to share this information. Hopefully they don't show the world the text that I sent clearly indicating that I'm not in fear for my life just a few hours after I was claiming to be in fear of my life. But that's a little damning. Quickly then goes on to talk about, apparently in Utah, all police calls are public record. And they claim they could obviously be lying. They definitely would have a motive for lying. So I'll tell you, I believe that they're telling the truth, and I'll explain why. He did explain that they actually called the police department, the Salt Lake Police Department, and asked about that specific day, see if John Dehlin had made that 911 call, and they just didn't have a single record. They recorded the phone call with the lady, so I think it's legit. And the lady said that no, there's no phone call from this guy, because I don't think he called the cops. I didn't think he called the cops in the first place, because I didn't trust his sincerity in the first place. I was completely positive he was faking this, and there was no way. There was no way this was going to go anywhere. The cops would look at that and they'd be like, dude, anyone who even spent a fraction of the amount of time as you have on the internet knows that that's just internet shit talking. They are shit posting about you. And you're like, I'm super in fear for my life over this. Shut up, man. Don't pretend. And knowing that that's not going to go anywhere, there's somewhat of a risk in calling the cops. If you were to really call the cops and claim that you felt threatened when you didn't actually feel threatened, and when it's just completely obvious, and when Cardin Ellis has that text message from you sort of demonstrating that you're clearly not feeling threatened. And it would be better for you to just say you call the cops, because who's going to question you on that? Other than Kwaku. Kwaku kind of called you on that one. God, it's so weird to be siding with Kwaku on a thing. I'm used to just laughing at him, but these Stone 16 guys are kind of growing on me a little bit. I hate to say it. Now, if you want to know where wokeness comes into this, I'm going to show you this other clip, and this is what happens to people who get wrapped up in identity politics. Now, identity politics, the message that it portrays is that your intersectional identity characteristics are probably the most important things about you. Immutable characteristics like your race, gender, sexual orientation. I think those are all important in certain ways. They have their places. They mean different things about you. But identity politics specifically gets really carried away with it and basically claims that those are your defining features. You can tell that's the message, because if you corner somebody who's really big in identity politics on this, they'll sort of back off it and claim, no, that's not what it is at all. It's just we're trying to help marginalized groups of people that have different intersecting marginalization identities, blah, 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 all that stupid woke nonsense talk. But you see what the layman, and I'm referring to John Dehlin, I view him as a layman, somebody who's adopting this woke persona for clicks, for views. And so when you try to convey it to the layman, they get obsessed with identity and they say things like this. Now, this right here is Cardinellis went on this podcast called You Ain't Black. And from what I can tell, it's a pretty damn funny podcast. These guys are obviously, they're in reference to Joe Biden saying, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Now that's where identity politics takes you, is this really dehumanizing idea that if your skin is this color, why would you not have this specific set of ideals, of opinions? And John Dehlin made the exact same faux pas as Joe Biden did. And pay attention to Cardinellis. He's another one that's growing on me. The dude he's kind of just this likable asshole is how I've described him. People don't like it when I describe him like that because I'm supposed to hate him. But the thing is, after I criticize John Dehlin like this, if that were to blow up and he were to see it, I don't think he would want to talk to me about it. I don't think he'll have, Kate Kelly on or Christy Money or people who have criticized him in the past. I have absolutely shat on Carden and Kwaku and Brad, not them specifically as people, but their This Is the Show program. And I bet they would they would talk to me and we could rib each other and, it'd be a good time. But he's got this shit-eating grin. He finds glee in this. So he's kind of a likable asshole, I think.
See what he says here.
Like that an educated person of color who's a teen or in their early 20s.
They're talking about Kwaku.
In 2018 or 2017 or whenever Kwaku converted, with the internet, can you imagine an intelligent person of color ever deciding to join Mormonism? Like, isn't that like I don't want to be mean or insulting.
So here it comes.
There's another fun John Dehlinism is every time he says something very insulting, he just says, I don't want to be mean or insulting. He does that the entire time throughout the Rod Meldrum interview and the Brad Wilcox drama. He'll say something like, how could you say something so racist? I'm sure he's a super nice guy. He just says evil things. Dude, just own it. You think Kwaku's an idiot. You're calling him an idiot, and you're claiming that he needs to have certain opinions because he's black. Oh, you as a progressive. My God, John Dehlin, you're so clumsy. I love it.
That story in and of itself kind of mind-blowing.
Just wait.
That's like some serious internalized hatred, self-hatred, because like, how in the world can Mormonism not be racist? Like, I'm racist.
And here it comes.
He doesn't speak like many black people do. He has like a very English vernacular. He doesn't have like a black dialect. So he speaks like a proper white person raised in Utah. So he's the perfect figure for Mormonism, because he's basically like seems like a white person with dark skin. The way he talks, the things he likes, the way he dresses. So yeah, and
Wait a minute!
See, there it is. There's that shit-eating grin I was talking about on Cardinals. He's like if Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes grew up to be a mild-mannered shit poster. Now, obviously, that was I don't know who that woman was on the stream, and you can't actually I can't find it now because John Dehlin deleted it because, well, it was offensive. And even the Exmormon community sort of called him out on that one. Say, dude, come on. That was, what do you think? You think Kwaku has to have a certain point of view because he's black? That's, I mean, I hate to use the term because it's overused, but racist. Anyway, obviously that woman used a more racist thing, but John Dehlin did he did the Joe Biden thing, that you ain't black if you Mormon. So Kwaku ain't black. He likes white people things. He talks like a proper white person. Oh God, these people, that's the problem. These people get caught up in these identity politics and they lose their minds. They lose individualism as a philosophy. You know, you can now no longer treat people as individuals. You have to treat them based on their identity characteristics. It doesn't compute in their brains. I think John Dehlin sincerely did not know what he was saying was offensive at the time. I'm sure after somebody explained to him, he understood. But I think he really just kind of, his brain short-circuited when he thought, like, wait a minute, I'm the anti-racist, and I think Mormonism's bullshit. And anti-racism is good for black people. And Kwaku is a black people. And Kwaku doesn't do my anti-racism. Kwaku must not be a black people. It's that Charlie Day thing from It's Always Sunny. I'd clip it if I weren't so goddamn lazy. Now, I should say that John Dehlin did end up apologizing for the backlash, which, you know, good on him. He said a shitty thing, apologized. Yeah, kind of like when Brad Wilcox did, and we all collectively decided to not accept his apology, even though he did it on a platform that would reach the same amount of people as he offended in the first place. Now, John Dehlin came on here, and I'm not even going to show you the apology because you can look it up if you want. It's really, you know, standard woke apology, like, I'm super sorry for the super harm I super caused and stuff. Anyway, I'll do better. It always has to end with do better. Anyway, you scroll down just a little bit, you see something kind of interesting, and I noticed this right away. What is this? The John Dehlin the John Dehlin YouTube account. So 146 subscribers saw this. 6,500 views on that. 146 subscribers. Yeah, man, I sure, if only the guy had a different channel, you know, like a different channel with maybe, I don't know, 56.3 thousand subscribers. Look, I don't generally call apologies insincere. I think we should be quick to forgive things like this because I think people can say really clumsy things. And I think that's what John Dehlin did. He got sucked into this identity bullshit and his brain short-circuited thinking that Kwaku wasn't a black people because I'm anti-racist and Kwaku no agree with me. So it was a stupid moment, a stupid thing to say. But when somebody apologizes, accept it and move on. But come on, man. This is how you're going to do it? And people even noticed it. This guy down here, if you look. Good for you for owning up and apologizing. Now, if only this wasn't a page 117 apology. How about reposting it to Mormon Stories and not a hidden file that few have seen? 50,000 saw your racist comment, and a couple of hundred see your apology. You brought up the 5 steps of repentance on discussing Brad Wilcox's comment. He used a more widely distributed subscriber pool to apologize and not a little-known side gig like you have done. Your co-host should also apologize, as she was way more racist than your comments. But you also should have called her out and toned it down. See, I think you're right on just about everything there, Clarence, except called her out. I don't think he had it in him to call her out because I don't think he knew what she was saying was shitty. Because again, he's just so completely caught up in these identity politics that Kwaku not a black people because I am on black people's side and Kwaku not on me side. I keep reverting to caveman speech there. Anyway, glad you compared it to Brad Wilcox, because the Brad Wilcox thing was another thing that has really disillusioned me to John Dehlin. He wanted to turn that into something way larger than what it was. So this next clip also comes from Kwaku's unbelievably dramatic video, The End of John Dehlin, full with forensic file style music and everything, and this is from Christy Money. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Christy Money, and I'm not going to get into a lot of the things that she said in her Facebook post. This is her Facebook post about walking away from the Open Stories Foundation. And she highlighted a lot of reasons that she left. And if you look up there, she has a lot of criticisms of finances, which, yeah, I understand that if you're a nonprofit organization where you're earning $250,000 a year, maybe you should quit, and who is not transparent, maybe you should quit criticizing the other nonprofit organization whose leaders are making $150,000 a year and who also isn't transparent. Maybe you should do something a little bit better than the thing that you're criticizing. But I'm not really going to get too much into the financial stuff because I honestly don't care if John Dehlin makes money. I think if you run a successful podcast, I'm all for you making money because I'm a capitalist. Ooh, like John Dehlin. This sort of caught me. I remember when I first watched this video. I just thought it was very dramatic. And this paragraph, I'm going to have Kwaku read it now.
I was present when individuals who work for Dr. Dehlin have been brought to tears from how he treated them for privately in a very small group, expressing concerns about his behavior. Our witnessing their treatment seemed to me a warning that we would be treated similarly if he perceived our loyalty to be lacking.
Okay, so when I first heard this, didn't know anything about Christy Money. I was like, okay, that could be right. It could also be a disgruntled employee. Who knows, really? I'm not in this situation. I don't really know. And especially that line where it said, our witnessing their treatment seemed to me a warning that we would be treated similarly if he perceived our loyalty to be lacking. Now, that sounds like a gang to me. So when I heard it, I was like, that's a little dramatic. And then I saw this clip.
Sandra and Gerald Tanner only come along once in a generation. A Jeremy Runnels, a Zelf on the Shelf, a Lindsay Hansen Park, a John Larson, a Jonathan Streeter, a Bill Reel, a Radio Free Mormon, a Simon Southerton, a Michael Quinn, a Juanita Brooks, a Fawn Brody. These people are not easily replaceable. And so like any ex-Mormon that wants to take one of these people out is not a friend of the ex-Mormon community. You may say you love, you don't like the harm the church does. You may say that you care about people who leave the church or the plight of the church. But if you spend your life trying to take out one of these precious people with lies and with smears and with unkind, uncharitable attacks, you don't care about the post-Mormon community.
Yeah.
You care about yourself. You care about your ego. You're broken. You need to get therapy. You need to get help. But just don't pretend ever that you really care about our people, because you don't.
It's wrong to criticize leaders of the unchurch, even if the criticisms are true. Now that got very, you're either with us or against us. And that seemed a little like fiery and spiteful, It was funny because he named all those people, and I've already gathered that ex-Mormonism is a religion that has its sacred cows. I got that way back in the day on the ex-Mormon subreddit when I caught flack for criticizing Jeremy Runnels. Now, I'm not super emotionally attached to the CES letter. I've never even read the whole thing. I haven't even read most of it. But Jeremy Runnels made a huge deal about his excommunication and acted like, oh, you guys are you're excommunicating me without cause. This is a kangaroo court. This is a terrible injustice. I was like, dude, you wrote the fucking ex-Mormon Bible. You've probably single-handedly led away more Mormons from the church than anyone else. They obviously have cause to kick you out of their club, which, by the way, you don't want to be in. Why do you care? This all seems so theatrical and so just performative. Like you want to look like a victim here. And I said that a lot on the Exmormon subreddit, and I got a lot of shit for that. People did not like me. I've never been well liked in the Exmormon community, but you know, I'm not really well liked in any community. I'm used to it. It's okay. I'll survive. It's funny he named all those people too, because there's a lot of them. He named Jonathan Streeter, and so he's got to go tell David Bokovoy to quit shitting on Jonathan Streeter for that fake church apology that he did, because you can't. If David Bokovoy, you don't care about the Exmormon community because you criticize Jonathan Streeter. You don't stop pretending you're broken. Get help. You don't care. You're not with us. You're against us. So that's essentially all I wanted to talk about. I was going to do this in a couple different parts. I might do a part on Brad Wilcox. I'm definitely going to do a part on Rod Meldrum. The Rod Meldrum part is good because you can contrast two different forms of wokeness and sort of show how they eat each other in a different sort of way. And that's between John Dehlin and Kara Burrell. I think that Kara is sincerely woke. I think she's buying all of this wokeness and nihilism and determinism, all these, the most depressing ideals ever. And Dehlin, on the other hand, I think he'll just say whatever gets him views. I really think that at this point, especially when I get to the Rod Meldrum thing where he spends 2 hours chastising Rod Meldrum like a child. Now, I spent hours and hours watching Mormon stories, preparing for this video, and I got really angry at the end because I was like, man, if I could have just saw this one clip, it would have saved me all this time. I could have just played this one clip because it was the last thing I saw when I was researching for this video. And if I would have just seen this clip, I'd have been like, oh yeah, this is a good reason. This is exactly the reason to be disillusioned from John Dehlin and to view him as, you know, I'm sorry to say it, man, fake. Now, this is on the same stream that I showed earlier where John and Kara are talking about, they're basically responding to criticisms. And this is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard anybody say. I've never felt so much secondhand embarrassment as I did when I watched this.
Like, I hate the fact that I'm a straight white male and that I represent the patriarchy.
Oh my god, it never gets old. I've seen this so many times and played it for so many people now. It's people in and out of Mormonism, people who have no idea what Mormonism is. I play this for everyone because this is the end game of wokeism, of identity politics. They'll never tell you this, but this is what they want from you. Good job, John Dehlin. You've given everyone what they want. You hate the fact that you're a straight white male. Holy shit, man. I'm embarrassed for you. I hate the fact that I'm a straight white man because I share that with you now. My God. Anyway, got a little bit mean there at the end. I feel a little bit bad. Maybe I'll issue an apology that will definitely not be accepted, but I don't know. Again, I will be releasing a couple more parts on this. Probably look out for some more videos if you want to see them. And I got to say once again, John, if you see this, please, for the love of God, do not feel threatened. I'm not going to try to hurt you. Please do not pretend to call the cops on me. Or do. I really don't care.
Like, I hate the fact that I'm a straight white male.